And welcome into Toledo Speedway for the Menards 200 presented by Federated Car Care. Welcome in, everybody. I'm CJ Perry alongside Steve Ronkowitz on this blustery 50-degree Sunday afternoon. Steve, the rain may hold off yet again. It was sprinkling a little bit when we were coming into the track. What happened? 2 days of practice, gorgeous weather. We come here for race day, and once again, Mother Nature has given us this.
Sure has. They unloaded 85 degrees on Friday night. They practiced yesterday. It was about 75. They get to the racetrack today. It's raining and about 45 degrees with a wind chill about 32 degrees out there. I think I saw some snow. It's going to give us a green racetrack. Everything starts from scratch today. Everybody's got to worry about how the car is going to handle in this new racetrack. It's going to be interesting to watch. We've got fast guys in the back. They're going to the front. It'll be great. And
talking about some of the guys that we've got here today, Frank Kimmel, of course, a veteran ARCA racer, 9 wins here at Toledo. Kenzie Rooston, a young up-and-coming female driver, 19 years old.
Absolutely. Also, youngster Chris Busher, he was Mr. Toledo Speedway last year in the ARCA Racing Series. Every time he set foot on this place, he won something. Also, Matt Crafton, he's your current Camping World Truck Series points leader. He's here as well in the number 88 for in another Menards-sponsored car from Messina, and he'll be here as well. So another race car driver that can get to the front in a hurry and show some speed.
Noticeable in his absent, Bobby Gerhardt.
Gerhardt is not here. His car is here. Toledo driver Mike Young will be in the number 7 for Gerhardt Racing.
All right, well, if the weather permitting, we are going to get to racing. We will bring it all to you. And this presentation of BCSN in HD is brought to you by Nationwide Auto Finance, the biggest zero-interest lot in the region for everyone.
BCSN, available exclusively on Buckeye Cable System, is presented by Central Catholic High School. One faith, one community, one mission. Lourdes College. Discover Lourdes College. TAS Electronics. And by Monroe Superstore, Dodge Chrysler Jeep.
And welcome back into Toledo Speedway for the Menards 200 presented by Federated Car Care. I'm CJ Perry alongside Steve Ronkowitz up here in the booth. And the way we're going to start this race off, Steve, we're going to be under yellow for a while because, you know, the conditions that we've come up on in this race.
Yep, we're going to start green and yellow together. So once we take the, quote, green flag, we'll still be under caution. And that will be to try and get some rubber onto the racetrack, make it a little easier for these guys as we go along to be able to make up some ground on the racetrack.
All right, well, let's set this lineup for you for today's Menards 200. Sitting on the pole, Milka Duno out of Venezuela, Scott Bross, veteran Frank Kimmel, number 44, of course, anyone familiar with him, and Kenzie Rooston making up the front 2 rows.
All right, in row 3, Matt Merrill, the number 32, also Dakota Armstrong in the 22, John Stansel in the 55 for Venturini Motorsports, and Tim George Jr. in the 31.
Row number 5, that's Brian Silas and Grant Enfinger. In row number 6, Chad McCumbee, and in the 14 car, Josh Williams on the outside.
Row 7, Levi Euster in the 23, and Daryl Basham in the 34. Rob Jones pilots the 15, and Tom Hessert Jr. in the 52.
Row number 9, that's Ron Cox in the 28, in the 26, Con Nicolopoulos. In row number 10, the 48 of James Hilton, and Chris Boucher, who is one to watch for today.
Absolutely. Row 11, Mark Easton in the number 10, and Tommy O'Leary the 4th out of Signet, Ohio. In row 12, it'll be Ty Dillon in the 41, and Matt Crafton, as we said, your Camping World Truck Series points leader in the 88.
Driving the Bobby Gerhardt number 7, that's Mike Young in row number 13 alongside Brad Smith, Chad Hockenbrough, and Sean Poor from Goshen, New York.
And in the 15th row, Mariev Dufault out of Sorel, Quebec. and Tim Cowan in the 55, and bringing up the back will be the number 8 of Jared Marks out of Napoleon, Ohio.
And, of course, a couple of changes to the lineup. The 77 of Scott Ross and the pole sitter, Milka Duno, looks like they're both electing to go to the tail. In Duno's case, of course, I think you've got the inexperience factor. I don't think she really wanted to be up on the pole.
She didn't want to be on the pole. Actually, because we were being set by 2010 owner points,
correct,
she is in the car that's owned by last year's winner, which was Patrick Shelter. There, had to think about that for a second. Patrick Shelter drove that car as the number 60 last year, was your points leader. And this year, Milka Duno has moved over from the IndyCar Series to take her shot at the ARCA Racing Series.
So that's going to put some experience up front. You got Frank Kimmel up there, Kenzie Rooston, inexperienced versus Kimmel. So that's going to be an interesting early-on battle.
It will be. Frank Kimmel, 9-time ARCA Racing Series champion, won here at Toledo Speedway 9 times as well.
Maybe the 10th time the charm. We're going to go green to yellow to start. So as soon as we get rolling here in the pace car, so the pace car will roll off, Frank Kimmel will be leading the way for 200 on this incredibly quick Toledo Speedway. That's the one thing, if you've never been here in person, this track is quick.
It is very, very fast, high bank racetrack. A lot of people compare this in a way to ARCA's Bristol Speedway. If you're familiar with Bristol, that the Nationwide Series runs on, Sprint Cup Series runs on. This is ARCA's version of that as well. A very fast half-mile racetrack.
And as you look through the field today, Steve, of course, Frank Kimmel, Chris Buescher, Kenzie Rooston, there's probably going to be, 10 to 12 drivers that we think at the end of this race are going to be in the mix to win.
Well, another guy to look at is somebody who has been all 2011. That's Ty Dillon in that number 41 out of Richard Childress Racing Stables. Ty Dillon is the grandson of Richard Childress.
Yes.
So
well documented.
Well documented, and he gets pretty good equipment in that number 41 car. So look for him to go to the front as well. So far, all 3 races that the ARCA Racing Series has run so far this year, he has been on the pole for all 3 of them and won the second race of the year at Talladega. So he is somebody who you want to take a look at as he starts way back. Where the heck is he? In 23rd spot. Look for him to make his way towards the front in a hurry.
And as you approach the 200-lap race, everyone's got a different philosophy to it. You've got the guys who like to go out early, run hard, kind of establish the pace. You've got the guys in the middle of the pack. It's kind of a different ballgame when you go out to the pack.
And one of the other things that you want to look at with the weather that we've had, CJ, I talked with Bill Kimmel before the race, who is the brother and crew chief for Frank Kimmel. And Bill and I talked about the strategy. He says, the only way I can look at this race is as a 201 lap race instead of a 200 or a 101 lap race instead of a 200, because we got to assume that we're going to have rain come in, and if we do, it changes the way things go the whole way. So I asked him, I said, are you going to pit early, get it out of the way? And he said, well, it'll depend a little bit on the way the weather looks. So I don't know. It was kind of a non-answer from Bill. I don't think he wanted to tell me everything that he had.
You mean someone connected with a racing team gives you a non-answer? I've never heard.
You've never heard that before?
I've never heard such chicanery.
A little bit of double talk as well. Talk about people to look for. That number 32 car there as well. Matt Merrill driving that car for Wintron Racing. That is a car that has had very good success on this racetrack over the years. So they always put a good race car under, and Matt Merrill is a very good race car driver as well. So somebody else to take a look at. You got probably 10 to 12 guys who you're going to look at is going to be able to take this race and do something with it.
We got 5 laps in the books under green yellow. Running up front is Frank Kimmel and Rooston still. So when we actually get the green flag racing, it seems a bit anticlimactic right now, as we said before. Track conditions, a bit spotty with the weather coming in. They did their best. They dried things off. We got the cars out there getting some heat into the tires.
Well, the other thing that you want to look
at,
rubber
on the track.
Rubber on the track, heat into the tires. And the other thing is, CJ, one thing that has not been taken care of extremely well has been pit lane as well. Now, both these cars are only going to have to make 1 pit stop, but you got to be very careful getting on and off of pit road, especially the exit to pit road on the backstretch back there. There's a pretty big puddle of water that everybody's going to have to go through when they come out of pit lane. A place where they can run into some real trouble in a hurry if you try and get on the gas too fast.
We look back into that second row. Another racer that I'm always impressed with is Dakota Armstrong, running pretty well in the points this year. Really has established as a pretty good driver.
Yeah, he's an extremely good race driver in that barrel gas Dodge. and runs out of the Cunningham Motorsports, which has generally been the developmental series for Penske Racing. So Dakota Armstrong is a guy that you want to look at. Really, one of the problems that Dakota has is he's got too many guys in front of him in that Dodge program, and it's been eased up a little bit. Justin Allgaier, who was very, very good in this series about 3 years ago, won championship here, raced last year for Penske, has moved on to Turner Motorsports in the Nationwide Series. So there's a little bit of movement up there, but realistically, Dakota Armstrong just doesn't have any place to move up to right now, so that's why he's actually here.
8 laps in the books. Frank Kimmel still running up front. Kenzie Rooston. You've got Dakota Armstrong back there. Also the 32 of Matt Merrill, who honestly those 4 drivers may be figuring in about 190 laps as well.
Yeah. The other thing, you look at Kenzie Rooston in a Venturini Motorsports car. John Stansel in the 55, also owned by Venturini Motorsports. So those guys have very good equipment underneath them. They won the last race. Venturini won the last race at Salem, and that is a race team that you always have to look at because Billy Venturini comes with some great equipment everywhere he goes.
And you talk about going from a super speedway, you go to the smaller tracks. You know, that's the thing about ARCA is if you're going to run the entire series, the younger drivers and the developmental deals are going to get that experience. You go from Toledo, and not everybody gets to do it. You know, money, of course, dictates how a lot of these guys get to run. But if you are, say, a Chris Buescher or Ty Dillon, you know, you get that experience throughout these different kind of tracks.
Absolutely. You talk about Chris Buescher. Chris Buescher had to forego racing in the Nationwide Series over this past weekend at Dover because he had committed to this race here. But when Roush was looking for replacement drivers for Trevor Bayne when Trevor Bayne got ill, Chris Buescher was one of the guys who stepped in to take care of that number 16 car that they were running in the Nationwide Series as well. So there's an awful lot of talent. Chris Buescher is a guy who, again, look for him to go to the front early on once we go full green. And
an impressive kid. I got to interview him last year doing the race. I did the race. And, you know, for a 17-year-old kid, he's got a lot. They groom them the right way now. I mean, you know, guys obviously like Dylan coming up through the Childress program, Chris Buescher, they groom them almost as much as interviewers as they do drivers now.
Oh, absolutely. It's never difficult to get a race car driver to talk about one thing, and that's racing. We find it week in and week out when we do the On Pit Row radio show, is it doesn't matter who you call and how much experience they have. They're very eloquent. They do a great job of talking about themselves.
13 laps in the books up front. Still under green, yellow, Frank Kimmel, Kenzie Rooston. You've got 32. And it looks like we are going to go green at lap number 20 if the track conditions are right, if the cars are, everything's ready to go. So, Steve, hopefully within the next 7 or 8 laps here, we can get to go green flag racing.
Well, and when we do, it's going to be an interesting chain of events because we've talked about fast cars up front, but you've got some very good cars towards the back as well. Something we haven't really talked about is the number 1 car there of Chad McCumbee, who has been very fast this year as well. A couple of good starts and good finishes as well early on in the season. Chad McCumbee runs real well here at Toledo. So you see there the Mod Space car for him. The interesting thing that I saw as I was going through the lineup last night, for the first time in a couple of years that I can remember, there are no Toyota race cars out there. There are Fords, Chevys, and Dodges, but no Toyotas. So it's kind of an interesting turn of events.
Yeah, of course, Toyota entering pretty much into stock car racing at all levels quite a few years ago, making a splash. And, yeah, that is kind of interesting. Do we credit that to the problems that the company has been having lately?
No, we credit that to the fact that Craig Gose and his race team went truck racing this year, and Eddie Sharp Racing has really not fielded a lot of teams so far in the short tracks here in the ARCA Racing Series. They have had drivers available for Talladega and Daytona.
Coming up on lap number 17, looks like we will be going green flag racing in a few laps here. Get the pace car off. Frank Kimmel, you know he's chomping at the bit. Frank Kimmel is the kind of guy, like you say, 9-time champ, 9-time winner here, has won everywhere, did a race at MIS last year, 2 years ago. I mean, the guy has got experience all over at every kind of track on every kind of conceivable level.
Well, Frank Kimmel knows how to get around Toledo. The thing that has bothered him or has worked to his disadvantage lately, he started his own race team 3 years ago. Actually, that was one of those teams that peaked real well his first year, ran into a little bit of a sophomore slump.
Yeah.
And he has just not been able to get another win. But Frank Kimmel knows how to get around Toledo. If we can get that pit strategy down, if he can stay out front, Frank Kimmel shouldn't have a problem.
And coming up on lap number 19, Frank Kimmel up front, Kenzie Rooston. We've got the number 32, Matt Merrill, Dakota Armstrong, and the 31 of Tim George, kind of running out the top 5 as it stands right now under green-yellow. Hopefully going green flag racing pretty soon. And yet, when the drivers do, they go out, they start throwing teams, you almost always, very rarely, do guys make that transition smoothly, because it's a new set of responsibilities, it's a whole new set of headaches than if you were just a driver.
Well, the thing, and Frank will tell you this, when he decided that it was time to become his own owner, you have to go out and you have to find race cars.
Exactly.
That's one of the things. You find race cars, you got to find somebody to build your engines if you can't do it in-house. And he was a very small team. It was he and his brother and a couple other guys. They were working at the garage at his house when they built that race team. And they did not have any sponsorship for the first year. Ansel and Menards came on later along, and once they came on, they were able to buy race cars and move up, get Roush Fenway engines. So things have progressed along. But then it was just a matter of, it seems like the chemistry hasn't been there. The brakes have not been there. No matter how good you are in the sport, there's a certain amount of luck that continues to play into how well you're going to finish on a weekly basis.
And we're bunching the field back up. Lap number 20. It looks like we're getting ready to go green here for the Menards 200, presented by Federated Car Care. And on lap number 20, Frank Kimmel jumps out Kenzie Rooston, Matt Merrill, Dakota Armstrong, and the 55, John Stansel, your early top 5.
Matt Merrill looking to go down low underneath a Stansel right on the back bumper of Frank Kimmel. And Kimmel is going to lead the first green flag lap.
And Matt Merrill giving Frank Kimmel underneath all he can handle, and Kenzie Rooston goes to the top side on Frank Kimmel on the backstretch coming in turns number 3. Great move by Kenzie Rooston to get around Frank Kimmel on lap number 21.
Well, Kenzie Rooston could well be the best female stock car driver in the United States. She showed it right there. She went to the front and has got about an 8 car length lead. 8 second would be long.
That's a bit early for that.
8 car length lead in front of the 44.
And also looks like Frank Kimmel struggling a little bit here, Steve, holding up the rest of the pack. Matt Merrill wants to get around him, even though it's early in the race, does not want to get bunched up behind Kimmel.
Yeah, the big problem that you got there for Matt Merrill is he doesn't want to get pinched down from the inside. Everybody kind of single file down there now.
And Chad McCumbee in the number 1 making some headway down there on the 55 of Stansel. And he gets boxed in a little bit behind Dakota Armstrong, and McCumbee's got to back off just a little bit, goes on to the backstretch. He's going to be one to watch today.
Yep, and all of a sudden they've got some slower cars out there. They have to work around that.
Mark Easton causing all kinds of problems down there, pulls to the infield and into pit row, bunching up the rest of the traffic.
Yeah, Mark Easton, one of the starting parkers, he wanted to get the 2-lap or 3-lap advantage on the rest of the starting parkers out there.
And looks like 25 Mackenzie Rooston coming up on our first lap car is going to be Milka Duno, our former pole sitter, and caution flag comes out. Caution flag is out.
I don't see anybody that's turned around.
Yeah, I don't see it. Oh, number 11 up there in turn number 3.
All right.
That's the number 11 of Brian Silas from Stuart, Florida.
Brian Silas kind of faded right into the light beer logo.
And as we take a second look, it looks like he just got a little bit loose. Looks made some contact.
That's the 52 car right there, the 52
That's
of Tom Hessert Jr.
So Tom Hessert and the number 11 of Silas getting into it, and he ends up against turn number 3 up by that K100 building, or the Miller Lite billboard. So get him turned around. Lap number 26 in the books. Kenzie Rooston looking very impressive early on, Steve.
Yep, sure does. There you see the race car of Brian Silas as he got turned around there.
And we're told that it's Todd Bowser. It was a late scratch, so it's not Brian Silas in the car, but Todd Bowser.
Okay, Todd Bowser in that race car. Brian Silas ran at Rockingham over the weekend and was not able to get back to Toledo. So Todd Bowser, a veteran of the ARCA Racing Series in that race car.
And it looks like Bowser's still over there. See if I don't see any. I think probably nothing mechanically wrong. He just got tapped a little bit, got into the wall. Didn't see anything wrong with the car. I think the safety official's just down there. See if we can get him turned around and get rolling again.
Well, the question will be whether or not Todd is going to continue running that car or not, seeing as he's in that fill-in mode.
Yeah. When you get in that start and park mode, a lot of these guys, like you said, and once those guys filter out, and then once the 10 to 12 drivers that we've seen, the guys that we know like Kimmel and Boucher and Kenzie Rooston, then it's kind of strange how the complexity of the race will change. You know, you got this first half, and then the second half will be a completely different animal.
Right, exactly. The other thing is here, 26 laps in, be interesting to see whether anybody on that front group of cars will decide that it's time to get that pit stop out of the way, get it done early, or the thing that you don't want to do, CJ, is wait too long and let this race continue on and on and on. When you start getting to lap 150, 175, if you hadn't made your pit stop,
if you're in that position, you should have done it 50 laps earlier.
Right. All of a sudden, when you come back out on the racetrack, you got a lot of cars you have to pass. Doesn't look like we have any takers at the moment. So.
It might be a little bit too early, don't you think? Maybe another 20 laps or so? I mean, you think you'll start to see that strategy coming in?
Well, the thing is, you're usually going to see a couple of caution flags early on, especially seeing as the way that the track was so green. They ran those 20 laps, got a little bit of heat into the racetrack, a little bit of rubber into the racetrack, but not as much as if you would normally have done full practices, full qualifying. So it may be a little bit green yet, and that may be what has happened as well to Todd Bowser to make him get around there as well.
So your early race leader, Kenzie Rooston, we've talked about her 19-year-old driver. Frank Kimmel, the veteran, 9-time winner Toledo, 9-time ARCA champ. The number 32 of Matt Merrill, and looks like the number 1 of McCumbee.
Yep, Chad McCumbee showing 4th. 5th is Dakota Armstrong. That's easy to say. Followed by Grant Enfinger. Matt Crafton has made his way up to 7th. Matt Crafton, who started the field way back because of owner's points back in 24th, didn't take him very long to find his way towards the front. And that's a car that is owned by Frank Kimmel as well. Mm-hmm. So 2 cars out of the Frank Kimmel stable, running extremely well early on.
And we had 2 days of practice here, of course, like you said, 85 and balmy when they unloaded. You come here today, nothing but rain and gloom. Kenzie Rooston doing quite well. Matt Crafton, Ty Dillard, Dakota Armstrong. No surprises in the drivers doing well out here in practice.
No, there was no surprise. If there was a surprise out of that group, it might have been Kenzie Rooston, who is young, inexperienced in these particular type of cars. But as we talked before, Venturini, who owns that car, Billy Venturini, puts great race cars under a lot of young drivers. We saw at the last race at Salem, Billy Venturini put a car under Brendan Poole. Brendan Poole brought that car home in first place, and Brendan Poole was the recipient of the big Billy Venturini smack on the lips, which is a signature move of Billy Venturini. It'd be interesting to see how that would play out if Kenzie Rooston ended up winning this.
Could that be sexual harassment?
It could be a little different program.
Perhaps if they lingered a little bit too long.
Could be a different program, but we're getting ahead of ourselves a little bit. The point is that 25 cars piloted by a very accomplished young race car
and when
driver.
you're on the fast track like that with the right equipment, that makes all the difference these days. I mean, I would say in the last 15 years, that's really become the program. You pick a young driver like that who's got talent, and you kind of fast track them through. Okay, so 1 year they're going to be in this series, 1 year here, 1 year here, and by 21, if they're racing nationwide cars or a sprint cup, it's kind of the program, the way things roll now.
Yeah, if you look at these drivers who are 16, 17, 18, 19 years of age, and some of them have 10 or 12 years worth of racing experience under their belt. They'll start at 5 and 6 years old running, whether it be quarter midgets or they'll run bandoleros and things like that. They are very accomplished race car drivers by the time they hit the age of 17 or 18.
31 laps in the books. Kenzie Rooston, 25, your leader right now. Frank Kimmel in second place. Pace car is off the track. Back to green flag racing for the Menards 200. And Kenzie Rooston leading the pack out there. Frank Kimmel's got a little bit more giddy up this time around. Matt Merrill and McCumbee makes a nice move on Dakota Armstrong down low, bunching up into turn number 3. Going on the outside is Dakota Armstrong. See if he can get a pass going. Or he left high and dry.
Dakota Armstrong went up high and is not able to get that car around quite as well up high there.
And Dakota Armstrong getting freight trained out there. If he doesn't get back into line, Chad McCumbee dips down to number 36 of Grant Enfinger. Might get around Dakota Armstrong coming back. Lap number 33.
Kenzie Rooston is leading the field, and she got a great restart there. Frank Kimmel right on the rear of her race car, but she was able to pull away from that 44 of Frank Kimmel.
So Kenzie Rooston lead him down turn number 3. Frank Kimmel bunching up on her rear deck lid. See if he can put any kind of scare into her early on in this race. Frank Kimmel running second place. He might just be content to do that for right now, Steve. Frank obviously knows another 150 laps, 155 laps in this race to go. He's not going to try anything stupid early on.
Yeah, absolutely. He knows that he doesn't need to lead a whole lot of laps here to get the job done. He can kind of bide his time a little bit wait for the racetrack to come to him. That was one of the things his brother Bill told me. Oh, and Kenzie Rooston is around on the backstretch.
And Kenzie Rooston, all kinds of trouble back there. Also the 52 of Tom Hessert in a separate wreck. Kenzie Rooston looks like she might have escaped
also
something
the 31,
back there.
Also the 31 of
that is
Tim George Jr.
So Tom Hessert, Tim George Jr. getting into it. They had to check up, it looks like, when the Kenzie Rooston wreck developed in front of those two drivers.
Well, it didn't look like anybody hit Rooston.
No,
it looked like she just came around.
Yeah,
Here she goes.
Yeah, coming back on the backstretch. Looked like she just got a little bit sloppy coming out of the turn. She got turned around. Everybody checks up. So then you've got, looks like Hessert and George have to dive down on the back wall, and some trouble there.
Yep. And what happened was once Kenzie let go of the brake, she then became a bigger obstacle for the 31 and the 52 down there, and they turned themselves around to avoid that incident and made their own incident. It looks like probably the 52 a little more worse for wear.
Yeah, because Kenzie Rooston was sitting, perpendicular on the track. And once you do that, everyone starts to dive down low, starts to dive down high, and Hessert and George just checked up and pretty much drove into each other.
Yeah, that was inexperience on Kenzie Rooston's part as she came off of two a little
bit too hot.
Yeah, it sure was.
It took the words right out of my mouth. She definitely came off that turn a little bit too hot.
You can see there that 31 of Tim George Jr., the left rear tire is flat on that car along with bent sheet metal. They will replace the left side tires on it, put some Sunoco Racing fuel into it, and you see crew members trying to pick that car up because it's not high enough to get it on the jack. So once they get a new tire on there, they should be able to send him back out. Hopefully he will not lose lap. Look, the front end of that car is also all torn up.
But it's just sheet metal, so I mean, if they can get that straightened out, so as long as it's not rubbing on the tire, it may not be a checker flag worthy car anymore. But
yeah, they're going to send him back out so that he does not lose a lap as he goes out towards the backside of pit lane.
Yeah, that car's got some extensive damage to the front left.
Chances are that he will catch up to the field and then probably dive right back down onto pit lane to try and take care of that left front damage.
And like you said, you don't want to lose a lap. It becomes strategy. I mean, drivers never want to lose points. They never want to lose laps if they can help it.
Well, and again, we're 41 laps into it. Now the question will become whether any of the front runners will want to come down here. The 82 of Sean Corr decided that he would take fuel, and I didn't see if he took tires, but at least his fuel stopped there. So the 82 of Sean Corr gets his pit stop out of the way early on, 41 laps into this event.
Well, actually, we're going back to 39. We're going back to the last completed lap. So we're going to go back to 39 under this caution. Frank Kimmel, your leader. Kenzie Rooston having to go back to the tail. Impressive early on, but you see how that is. You just make that one mistake. You've been leading for 40 laps. The next thing you know, a little bit of inexperience, a little bit coming off too hot on turn number 2, and she's in the back of the pack. I'm not saying she won't be able to work her way back up. 160 laps to go. I'm sure she'll be able to find her way back up somewhere, but will it be enough? And will she drive her equipment? You know how you can drive the wheels off the car trying to get back to that spot.
Well, this will be fun to watch. See how strong that car is. We see the 31 of Tim George Jr. just duck down back onto pit lane again. There he goes to get some work done, as well as the 52 of Tom Hessert Jr. as well goes down there. You see the damage on the right front of the Hessert mobile. That car is owned by Kenny Schrader.
Yeah, Federated Car Care. Yeah, and Kenny Schrader, of course, a legend in pretty much all racing circles, especially here at Toledo. So it's at least good to see his Federated Car Care car here.
Or at least what is left of it.
Back there on the backstretch, they're still collecting some of it as they drove into each other.
All the work being done on the left front, it looks like, of the Tim George Jr. car, trying to pull that sheet metal off of, make sure it's not going to rub that tire up there. As you saw, I don't know if you noticed, CJ, from that camera angle, when he came back off of pit lane, the amount of camber that's in that left front tire, I noticed that on a lot of these cars before the race, a huge amount of offset on that left front tire. And that's in an attempt to get around this racetrack a lot faster.
Yeah, the quirks of Toledo Speedway, of course, they try to do that as opposed to, say, other tracks.
All right.
So
looks like they may have gotten much of the debris cleaned off anyhow. So Frank Kimmel, Matt Merrill, Chad McCumbee, Grant Enfinger, and Matt Crafton are your top 5. Matt Crafton found his way to the 5
They're not giving Kenzie Rooston her spot back, are they?
I believe she has lost a lap, so she will be.
All right, I was going to say.
She will be the first car a lap down, I believe, is where we are at.
Unlike dirt car racing, where there might be a chance to get your spot back, I was just kind of curious as to why she wasn't going to the tail there. Back to green flag racing, lap number 42. Frank Kimmel in the lead, the number 32. Matt Merrill and McCumbee in the 36, making some waves. Grant Enfinger benefiting from a bit of that.
Grant Enfinger is the guy to look out for. We didn't talk a whole lot about him in the pre-race. And Chris Buescher just either lost something off the back of his car or ran off over something.
Yeah, Chris Buescher uncharacteristically struggling. Looks like Frank Kimmel's getting ready to put him a lap down right now.
Yeah, that's really unusual for that Raullo Brothers car to have problems.
Yeah, Buescher runs so strong here. Won twice here last year. Won the pole, won wire to wire, and caution flag is back out.
I got to believe that
lap number 44. We've got a car up there in between turn number 3 and 4. Get a good look at that. Is that the number? That is the 06.
That is the 06 of Tommy O'Leary IV out of Signet, Ohio, in a Wayne Peterson Racing Chevrolet.
So Tommy O'Leary getting back up there onto the wall between turn 3 and 4. I don't think he made any contact with anybody.
I don't think so. Well, that's listed as a Chevrolet, but it has Ford Fusion headlights on it, so we will call it a Fuge-Rolet.
You mean the decals, right?
Yeah,
any more? Stock cars aren't exactly stock cars anymore, are they?
No, they sure aren't. They are purpose-built racing machines.
So on lap number 45, Tommy O'Leary smacks up against the wall. Looks like he's got some damage there as he got crumpled a little bit. And he heads to pit lane.
And Chris Buescher, I'm trying to find here. Chris Buescher is still showing on the lead lap. Kenzie Rooston is the first car a lap down, so she should get the Aaron's Lucky Dog, I would be willing to bet, which will put her back on the lead lap. So we'll see if she gets the wave around to take the Aaron's Lucky Dog.
And for our viewers out there, explain what that is. It's something that's to the ARCA series.
ARCA series, a lot of race stock car series, instead of racing back to the caution like they used to do years ago, what they will do in the form of safety, the first car that is a lap down gets the wave around and gets to come back to be on the tail end of the lead lap. So Kenzie Rooston is indeed the Aaron's Lucky Dog, and she's coming around the racetrack. Will join the back of the field, so she will go in behind Milka Duno.
So safety truck pulls off the track. Pace car still out on the track, leading Frank Kimmel, who's in first place. Matt Merrill in second place. Chad McCumbee in third. The number 36 of Grant Enfinger in fourth. And the number 88 of Matt Crafton, rounding out your top 5 under caution. And we've had a lot of cautions today already, Steve. Not only do we start under green-yellow for the first 20 laps, we've had a few cautions mixed up. Kenzie Rooston, Hesser, George, that's Tommy O'Leary back there. So we've had some cautions trying to get this race going.
Well, I have to say, CJ, I'm not shocked by that.
I was.
I'm not shocked. With a green racetrack, not a lot of rubber on the racetrack, the cold condition. I mean, I wouldn't even call this chilly. This was cold.
Yes.
So it takes a long time to get heat into the race tires to get good grip out there. So it's not unusual that we would have a set of cautions like this.
Yeah. But see, the problem is, though, what happens is you start getting into this rhythm to where you can't get any kind of rhythm. So, you race for 5 or 10 laps, and then, you'll get some caution. So it gets harder to put the rubber on the track to get the heat in the tires and for the drivers to establish any kind of rhythm.
As your friend Darrell Waltrip always says, cautions breed cautions.
Yeah, that's pretty common in the racing world.
Your Uncle Darrell?
My Uncle Darrell, yes. Uncle Boogity. As we call him around the compound.
I thought that was just during Christmas.
Lap number 47, Frank Kimmel, green flag racing. He is your leader. Pretty good jump by Kimmel, the number 32 of Matt Merrill in second place. McCumbee in third, the number 36 of Grant Enfinger in fourth place. Matt Crafton in fifth. Single file racing around Toledo Speedway. Lap number 48 in the books. And I think for the next couple laps, we're just going to see some drivers kind of shake things out again.
Well, I think it would make some sense for them to try and not do too much until they get some heat into these tires. And then just as I say that, they go 3 wide coming out of
the backstretch.
3.
Chris Buescher and the number 7 car
of Mike
Young tangling it up on the backstretch. Some bold maneuvers back there in the back of the pack.
So, yeah, as we said, they're going to be cautious. They are anything but. We see a nice battle there
Side
as well.
That's Ty Dillon. and Dakota Armstrong side by side. So two good young drivers in Dakota Armstrong and Ty Dillon fighting it out there in that top 10 spot.
Well, it looks like Frank Kimmel, at least as of right now, has the race a little bit under control as Matt Merrill's just very content to run behind him. And we see again the 22 car there of Dakota Armstrong likes to run high. He keeps trying to get that high lane in here. It hasn't worked too well for him, but he keeps giving it a shot. We'll give him credit for that.
He's running in 9th spot right now, so in 52 laps, not really, he can test out some lines right now. So for Dakota, it's probably not that important to as long as he doesn't lose position, he can still kind of play around with what line he wants to pass on and where he's trying to go with that car.
Well, he's going up there not for lap 49, 52, 55.
But for later on, exactly.
Lap 170.
Later in the race, right.
Yep, he's going to see how it's going to come in up there, whether or not he'll be able to make a pass later. There you see the number 1 of Chad McCumbee looking to make a move on Matt Merrill, and he's got a whole bunch of rear view mirror of the 36 of Grant Enfinger as well. Enfinger going low. Looks like he may be able to get by McCumbee there as they go into 2.
Good battle side by side. The number 36, Grant Enfinger, going low on Chad McCumbee on the backstretch. Enfinger about a nose in front of him, tries to get around on turn number 3. Enfinger holding on. Can he push him out of the way? Just muscles past him. So McCumbee loses the spot to Grant Enfinger on lap number 56. Great power move down low by Grant Enfinger in the 36 car. Matt Merrill next in his sights. It looks like Enfinger's got one of the fastest cars on the track at this point.
That car is owned by Mike Allgaier, who is the father of Justin Allgaier, who was the series champ here 3 years ago. So that car is a very good car looking towards the front, and he has closed right up on the back bumper of the 32 of Matt Merrill as well.
So Matt Merrill's got him in his rear view. Grant Enfinger coming up. Frank Kimmel holding down, trying to make that car as wide as possible. Lap number 57. Trouble on the backstretch. We've got the caution flag comes out. Mariette Dufault comes to a halt in the number 12 machine on lap number 58. Dufault
just got turned around there
and just got smacked between turn 3, number 4. So we take a second look at what happened to the number 12 machine, Steve. Coming off that turn on turn number 2, looks like she got pinched up against the wall and nowhere to go.
Yep, she was running that high line that we saw Dakota Armstrong trying to work, and it just did not work for her. She kept going higher and higher, just never got it. Looked like, again, Chris Buescher may have been part of that.
So Chris Buescher may have clipped Dufault in the back to get that rolling, and Dufault comes to a halt between up on turn number 3. But it could have been a lot worse. I mean, I think when you look at this wreck coming off of the backstretch, you see Chris Buescher just get up to the high side, probably clips her back end right here. And we see who else is that avoiding it. Is that the number 30? Can't see who that.
It was kind of hard to tell who went down low to get by that.
Oh, that was the number 25 machine of Kenzie Rooston. So Kenzie Rooston avoiding that wreck with Dufault and Chris Buescher going up high to get past that.
Yeah, Mariette Dufault has moved the car off of the racetrack onto the grass down there, and they will most likely have to bring a wrecker out to get that car out of there because that ground is very, very soft down there. And I don't think she's going to be able to drive it out of there, especially within that condition.
Yeah, and I think she barely got that car to the infield. Well, while they get this cleaned up, we are going to step aside and take a quick break. It is the Menards 200 presented by Federated Car Care on BCSN. Lap number 62, caution flag out for the Menards 200, presented by Federated Car Care. I'm CJ Perry alongside Steve Ronkowitz up here in the booth. And that wreck on Dufault, they do have to get the hook out there, pick her up, and looks like her day may be over, Steve.
Yeah, a little premature there to end the day, unfortunately, for Mariev, but got in a position where she was not going to be able to get out of, and I don't know what the problem is with the 17 car of Chris Buescher, but it seems like
surprisingly so.
Been in a lot of trouble here.
Very
today
uncharacteristically, kind of running certainly back in the pack, and almost we've seen 2 wrecks that he was almost involved in, and you see some damage to his front right.
That what paint you see on there is the
From
black
Defoe's
paint
car.
from the Dufault VR12 Dodge is all over the right front of that car. So I don't know what's up with Chris, but unfortunately not having the kind of day that we expected him to have anyhow, and I'm sure that he expected to have here as well. Usually the Raullo brothers who bring that car here, it's the David Reagan fan club car, usually have a very strong car.
Yeah, last year during the ARCA race in May, he and Kenny Schrader had that awesome battle. Buscher finally getting past him around lap 50 and then didn't look back, and Buscher looked incredibly strong just as the race wore on. I mean, a 200-lap race, and Chris Buscher, 17-year-old kid, wire-to-wire winner, really impressed by him.
And once again, we see back in the pits, that is the 31 of Tim George Jr., as they're trying to make repairs on that car as well. Continue to work on the front end of that to keep the sheet metal off of that left front tire. I'm really kind of surprised, CJ, that they didn't just pull the Sawzall out and
just start chopping away that sheet
out
metal.
of there.
Of course, George and Hessert, they were involved in that wreck about 20 or so laps ago, really kind of mangled both cars up, and for the last 20 laps, they've each been pulling into the pits and working on them. Matt Crafton into the pits.
Yep, going to take this time on the caution here to do his service work. We're going to put a round and a half of wedge in the back end of that car. So obviously Matt Crafton doesn't like the way the car is handling right now, putting the right side tires on and putting a round and a half of wedge in the back of it. That's going to make the car handle a little bit better for him. The racetrack's going to come to the drivers a little bit. It's going to continue to loosen up a little bit. It was a very tight racetrack when they started, and as we continue to race, it will make things a little bit easier for him, as it's going to loosen up for him, make the car a little freer and easier to drive.
Yeah, at this point, they're kind of figuring out how to set the cars up as they go, and the drivers that do the best adjustment as the race progresses are going to be the guys, obviously, in the better position the more the race wears on.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't anticipate that the weather's going to change a whole lot. If the sun were to pop out and all of a sudden the temperature went up, it would make a huge difference. But I don't think that's going to happen. It's going to continue to be cloudy. It's probably still about 45 degrees or so out, maybe 55 degrees at the most. So the racetrack is going to stay pretty well.
Yeah, there's a lot of moisture in the air. There's a lot of moisture in the track, everything coming up. And, of course, you've got the cloud cover, which pretty much seals everything over, which just keeps this kind of this wet heaviness just kind of over the speedway.
We saw that Matt Crafton pit stop, and the talk was before the race that Matt Crafton's truck crew came over from Sandusky, Ohio, to pit that car, as they would normally do his truck from Dover. So he brought his whole pit crew with him from Dover so that he could get good pit stops here at Toledo. That's one thing Matt Crafton comes to win this race.
Yeah. Back to green flag racing on lap number 66. Frank Kimmel gets a pretty good jump there on the number 32 of Matt Merrill. Going down to the backstretch, and of course, Grant Enfinger, McCumbee, and the number 55. That is John Stansel. Kind of through attrition right now. Some of these guys are starting to move up a little bit, Steve.
And Grant Enfinger did not get as good of a start as he had before. We see the Matt Merrill looking to the outside of Frank Kimmel, not able to make it stick coming out of turn number 2.
And Grant Enfinger goes down low, but Matt Merrill shuts him down. Frank Kimmel shutting down Matt Merrill. It's kind of a chain reaction as they come back onto the front stretch. Frank Kimmel still in the lead, single file over Matt Merrill and Grant Enfinger. Chad McCumbee in fourth place, and the 55, John Stansel, rounding out your top 5. And then Ty Dillon has made some inroads here. He has moved up into the 6th spot. Ty Dillon looking to go down low on Stansel, coming around turn number 4, and he gets shut down by Stansel in the 55.
And the other guy we have not really talked about, the 58, Chad Hockenbraw, in that Carmel Apples car back there as well, looking to be part of that top 7.
Yeah, Hockenbraw really has moved up quietly, and now in that first pack of racers, they're starting to pull away from that second pack just a little bit, with Frank Kimmel in the lead, Merrill behind him, Enfinger making another charge. Enfinger loves to make that charge on the backstretch if he can do it, but Matt Merrill right now still running extremely quick, as is Frank Kimmel, and Kimmel cagey enough that if he does have the slower car, he can make that car at this point wide enough. Whether he can do that the entire race, if he does have a slower car, remains to be seen.
Well, it looks like that 36 of Grant Enfinger gets off of turn number 2 real well as he goes down the backstretch and gets right up on the back bumper of the 32 of Matt Merrill, but then loses some of that ground in 3 and 4.
Coming down 3 and 4. Yeah, the drivers that can handle coming off turn number 2 hot are the ones that can get that run on the backstretch. Enfinger seems to have mastered it, but when he does get to turn number 3 and 4, he starts to lose it. 72 laps in the books. Kimmel is still your leader. Matt Merrill in second place. And Enfinger in position number 3, followed by Chad McCumbee and the 55, John Stansel. Ty Dillon and Hockenbraugh, your top 7.
We just saw there Matt Crafton moving underneath the 14 of Josh Williams, down there along with the 25 of Kenzie Rustin as well.
And Kenzie Rustin, like you said, the Aaron's lucky dog, getting back onto the lead lap behind in the number 22 of Dakota Armstrong. Kenzie Rustin trying to look down low, look down high, and Armstrong is having none of it. Buscher holding him up.
Yep, and Matt Crafton was all over the back bumper there of Kenzie Rustin again. Great.
It looks like Kenzie Rustin going up high on Matt Crafton onto the backstretch. Side-by-side battle back there for the 11th spot. Matt Crafton going down low. Kenzie Rustin just drifts up a little bit too high and loses it momentarily.
And the next person in front of Matt Crafton there, that is the 22 of Dakota Armstrong, is in his sights as well.
We turn back to that first pack of racers. The 44, Frank Kimmel. Enfinger coming up on the high side of Matt Merrill. Enfinger going up high on Frank Kimmel now, trying to split him. He and Merrill, and Enfinger, can he get the muscle to get past Frank Kimmel coming out of turn number 2? He's been having luck with that turn number 2 run all day long onto the backstretch. Grant Enfinger going into turn number 3, powering onto the outside of Frank Kimmel. He's bringing along Matt Merrill with him, and Grant Enfinger gets past Frank Kimmel on lap number 78. Great move, great sustained power from Grant Enfinger.
I just wonder if there's something wrong with that 44 car of Frank Kimmel, because all of a sudden
he's starting to run like a dog now.
Everybody's going around him. Chad McCumbie's getting around him now as well. So we have a new leader. It is
Grant Enfinger. So
Grant Enfinger, there you go.
So Grant Enfinger coming up into lap traffic, and Frank Kimmel just looks like he is just going backwards on a conveyor belt at the moment. Stansel, Dillon, Hockenbraugh all coming up on Frank Kimmel, who just 5 laps ago was in the first spot. Kimmel definitely losing something there.
Well, you have to wonder if he's got a tire going down or something just isn't right on that 44 Menards machine for Frank Kimmel, as he just continues to move back. Grant Enfinger, your new leader, with Matt Merrill still sitting in second place. Matt Merrill not able to take advantage of the problems with the 44.
Bringing along Chad McCumbee in third. Frank Kimmel holds on to 4th spot, the 41 of Ty Dillon. And then Stansel, Hockenbraugh, and that first group of racers getting into lap traffic again on lap number 82. Grant Enfinger and Matt Merrill leading the pack at the moment.
And give a shout out to the number 8 of Jared Marks out in Napoleon, Ohio as well, running in the 8th spot currently. Chris Buscher in 9th, and Matt Crafton round out your top 10.
Yeah, good battle back there as they just touched momentarily. Chris Buscher, Matt Crafton just touched. And it looks like Buscher was able to save it. Oh, he's all over the track right now, Steve. Chris Buscher just got nudged out of the way by Matt Crafton.
Well, Matt Crafton says, I want nothing to do with Chris Buscher right at the moment. So Chris Buscher went up high. Crafton decided it was time to make the move and got underneath him. And hopefully, for Matt Crafton's sake, he can run away from Chris Buscher, who seems to be kind of a rolling chicane at times today.
Yeah, Buscher is struggling with the car. Not only is poorly handling, but he's just all over the place on the track as well. Lap number 85. And your leader, Grant Enfinger, getting past Mike Young, Matt Merrill. They're getting into the lap traffic again on the backstretch. Chad McCumbee, Frank Kimmel holding on to 4th for how long, as Ty Dillon in the 41 is sniffing him out.
Well, it looked, maybe Frank Kimmel just decided that was where he wanted to go. He wanted to move back in the pack a little bit.
Save it a little bit?
It could be, because he got passed by 4 cars there, and all of a sudden he's able to hang on without any problem in front of Ty Dillon. So maybe just a short problem, or maybe he decided he just didn't want to be leading the pack.
But at this point, Enfinger's got a really strong car, too, as does Matt Merrill. So if Frank Kimmel wants to save it, you're going to have to see how Enfinger's car and Merrill's car holds up over the course of the next 100 laps or so.
Well, we also have pit stops, which are going to play into this deal as well.
Yeah, I was just going to ask, at this point, when does the pit strategy start coming into play? We're heading into lap number 90. Next thing you know, we're going to be at the halfway point.
Well, I think what you're looking at is once you get to the halfway point, so the crew chiefs talk about this race only being maybe 101 laps if you get rain.
Right.
So they were probably looking to make that pit stop after that point, not wanting to give up track position just in case this race only went halfway.
So your race leader is Grant Enfinger getting around the lap car. That's the number 20 of Ron Cox coming onto the outside. Matt Merrill in second place. Also your former pole sitter, the 63, that's Milka Duno in the lap car. McCumbee and Frank Kimmel. Yeah, now Kimmel does seem to be holding steady right now, as we saw him get passed by both Enfinger and Matt Merrill, and McCumbee getting past him. Kimmel seems to be settling into that fourth spot quite nicely.
Yeah, real well. And the thing was, Ty Dillon was all over his back bumper for a few laps, and Ty Dillon has backed up as well. So I think whatever was wrong with that 44 Menards Ford for Frank Kimmel, it may have righted itself.
Lap number 91, this is a 200-lap race, so they're coming up on the halfway point. Of course, pit strategies, tires, fuel, all that stuff comes into play here. Your race leader, Grant Enfinger and Matt Merrill in second, not really pulling away anymore. I mean, you're definitely seeing that gap between McCumbee, Kimmel, and the front two cars definitely is starting to shrink a little bit.
Well, you can see a lot of times you'll have cars that are good in long runs. You'll have cars that are good on short runs. And as we move into a longer run here, you tend to see a difference in how these cars are running. And that may have been just what we saw with Frank Kimmel, is that his car was really good on that short run. But as soon as all that heat built up in the tires, as soon as we got into the long run, he wasn't able to sustain.
And with Enfinger leading, coming up on more lap traffic, Matt Merrill. Enfinger looked to be really good in those short, sustained bursts coming off turn number 2 to try to muscle past Kimmel. But, yeah, you might see in these longer stretches here, we'll have to see how Enfinger's car holds up.
Well, right now, also Matt Crafton's showing in 8th place there as well, setting his sights on the 55 of John Stansel in that 55. Chad Hockenbraugh, also the 58, is currently in 6th spot. A real good run for Chad Hockenbraugh, right on the back bumper of Ty Dillon as well.
It looks like his car is faster than Ty Dillon at this point. I think Hockenbraugh just kind of waiting for his spot. Lap number 96, your race leader, Grant Enfinger, Matt Merrill, Chad McCumbee, Frank Kimmel in 4th, Ty Dillon in 5th spot. And Hockenbraugh running back there in 6th place. Coming up on the halfway point, lap number 97. Car's starting to get stretched out now, Steve. I think you have starting to see some rubber on the track, some heat in the tires. We're past those early race jitters. The cautions don't seem to be as much of a factor right now.
Well, Grant Enfinger is the guy who is leading this race as we head towards the halfway mark. And Matt Merrill in second, Chad McCumbee, Frank Kimmel, Ty Dillon, Chad Hockenbraugh, John Stansel, Matt Crafton, Chris Busher, and Kenzie Rustin are your top 10.
And Grant Enfinger now getting around the lap car. That is the 52 of Hessert, who was involved in that wreck earlier. And we are coming up on the halfway point. Lap number 100 out of the 200-lap race, the Menards 200, presented by Federated Car Care. Just past the halfway point, and you get a sense of the power and the speed out here, Steve. I mean, it's something you take for granted, but sometimes if you just get a chance to feel these cars and listen to them a little bit, you really start to, you get the juices flowing.
Well, an average lap speed of about 100 to 104 miles per hour, what you're seeing out of these race cars on an average lap speed. Sometimes it doesn't look quite that fast from the camera angles, but you know what? When you're in that race car, you get moving in a hurry.
And Chad McCumbee has now passed Matt Merrill for the second spot. Grant Enfinger in first place, Chad McCumbee in second, Matt Merrill in third. Frank Kimmel still hanging on to that fourth spot. We got some good battles back there in the top 5. Ty Dillon, Hockenbraugh trying to get around some lap traffic. John Stansel back there as well. But McCumbee moving up very quickly. Lap number 105, and McCumbee's looking really good at this point. Merrill looks like he's losing a little bit because there's Frank Kimmel coming underneath.
And that 23 car, Levi Euster, down on the bottom part of the racetrack, trying to get himself out of the way so he can get all the fast cars around the outside of him, of which that 44 is, again, a fast car going underneath the 32 of Matt Merrill.
Yeah, we saw Euster belching out some smoke early on, so we didn't think that he would be much of a factor coming in today.
Now Sean Corr in that 82 goes to the bottom of the racetrack as the fast guys Matt Merrill and Frank Kimmel go around.
And Frank Kimmel looking like he's going to put a run on Matt Merrill underneath, trying to get that third spot back. It looks like Merrill's struggling right now, Steve. I don't know if his car is what it once was.
It was real good early on, but as we've gone into this long green flag run here.
Starting to go away from him a little bit. You can tell it's starting to handle a little more poorly. Frank Kimmel getting down underneath. Turn number 3, coming out of turn number 4. Frank Kimmel gets that spot back into third. Chad McCumbee next in the veteran ARCA driver's sights.
A little wiggle there on the 32 of Matt Merrill. I think that car's really going away from him.
It's pushing all over the place. He's loose.
He had been way down on the bottom of the racetrack all the way around. Now he's pushing.
Trouble on the front stretch. The number 85, Tim Cowan, spins out down to the front. Caution flag comes out.
Right in front of all the leaders came by. It looks like everybody is able to get by on the low side of the racetrack, right down here underneath the flag stand for sure.
So Tim Cowan getting looped out. And see if we can get a look at what happened to Tim Cowan in the 85 machine. And I just looked like he looped out on his own, went up a little bit high, a little hot, and got it around.
Yeah, that's that little second groove of the racetrack we saw previously when guys got up there. They did not have the grip in the second line up there, and they just looped it around.
And he almost clipped the number 28 of Ron Cox when he came back up. That's always the danger when these cars, when they decide to go down, then they, instead of just stopping where they're at, a lot of times when they jerk back like that.
Well, at lap 112 now, we'll see whether or not pit stops are in order from our leaders.
I would have to think at this point some of the guys, they're going to be starting to take advantage of this.
I would agree with you. I would think this would be the time because you don't want to wait too long. The other thing you don't want to wait for, and here's the second part of it, CJ, is that great big black cloud that's right over turn 2. So
yeah,
do we stay out
and
see if it's going to rain, or do we go in and pit?
Do you play for a rain-shortened race, or do you go for all the marbles? We were lucky enough it stopped raining right before the race started, and the weather has held off the entire time.
There you see that big black cloud right over turn 2 here at Toledo Speedway, and the question is, there's no question about it. All the leaders are coming down pit road, and they are going to get service. They figure that the clouds are going to stay away. Matt Crafton will stay out.
Yep, looks like they're definitely going to take advantage of here. Everyone's going into the pits.
See Chad Hockenbrough there in the 58. There's the 44 of Frank Kimmel getting left side tires.
Dakota Armstrong going down there. Pretty much everyone, do you think tires and fuel at this point? Any adjustments? And we saw Matt Merrill. How much adjustments can they do on that car down there?
Well, they can do a lot. They can put an awful lot of wedge into that car. They can adjust the track bar in and out. There you see the 55 of Stanton took out about a half a round out of the right side of that car. So not handling too poorly, at least on the 55 for Stansel.
Yeah, Merrill, though, at one point running in the top, he's still running in the top 5, but you can see him kind of sinking like a stone, so they've got to put some work into that car. That car was all over the place in the track the last few laps.
This caution flag couldn't have come at a better time for Matt Merrill in the 32 for sure.
So we see Ty Dillon come out of the pits, race leader Grant Enfinger, Chad McCumbee, Matt Merrill. See how much work they did to the car, see if it kind of tightened up anything, because he was all over the place. John Stansel comes out as well. Chris Buescher, who, surprisingly enough, we've not heard a whole lot from Chris Buescher today, other than bad things.
Bad stuff. Yep. Chris has not had the car to beat. There's no doubt about that.
This has been an unlucky day for Buescher coming out of the pits. Also, Tom Hessert still has that extensive damage, of course, in the front right from getting into that wreck earlier on.
And there you see our current leader there for a second. That's the 88 of Matt Crafton, who stayed out. Did not go into the pits, so he is currently shown as your leader with 25 of Kenzie Rustin in second place, Sean Corr in third, and then Frank Kimmel will restart in fourth place. He is the first car to have dove down pit lane.
And they've got Enfinger back there, see if he can get back up to the front. I would have to think that his car is strong enough and he's in a good enough position to be challenging off the restart. Interesting
strategy employed here by the 88 staying out, but they went now that I remember,
they went early. So yeah, Matt Crafton, because we were talking about that quite a few laps ago, and what the strategy was going to be, and then Crafton dove in first, so that may bode well for him.
different strategies. See, interesting to see how it's going to play out.
Because the key is over the last 85 laps or so, his car could go away on him. And if you've got the fresher tires, you've got the fresher car, it's that kind of cat and mouse game. It's going to be that 10-lap interval where his car starts to go away and everybody else's starts to come in. We see that almost all the time across the board.
Yep, and what is old is new again, because who is right in front of the 44 of Frank Kimmel? The Kenzie Rustin. Once again, right in front of the 9-time ARCA Racing Series champion Frank Kimmel.
Isn't it amazing how you can disappear for 80 laps and then come back and just through this jockeying in the pits, next thing you know, Kenzie Rustin's back up mixing it up for the lead.
Well, we will see if that Venturini Motorsports team made any adjustments when she came in and had service done on that car that will allow her to stay in front of the 44 of Frank Kimmel. So we got the fast. It's funny, CJ, you get halfway through a race and the cream rises to the top.
Yeah, and it changes and it changes back and then it changes back again. And I would say for today, this has been quite a learning curve for Kenzie Rustin, because we saw her mishandle coming off turn number 2, came off way too hot, and that put her to the tail end of the field. She got the Aaron's lucky dog to get back in the mix. She kind of, it's kind of a back marker for a little bit, so now we see her coming back to the front, and we'll see if she can do anything with that.
Well, there is a learning curve. Every racetrack you go to, and it's all about seat time. The one thing that Kenzie missed out on, she missed out on a few laps for qualifying.
Yeah.
And it doesn't seem like a lot when you add in another 3 or 4 laps to do a qualifying
But
effort.
if you've never been here,
4 laps is a good portion of the total amount of time you've been on the racetrack.
And she's only 19 years old. I mean, we can't forget that. She's running against Frank Kimmel and some of these other drivers with plenty of years' experience at Toledo and in ARCA.
Well, you've got Matt Crafton in front of her, who has a huge amount of experience as well in the Camping World Truck Series and the Nationwide Series as well, in that 88 Ford Fusion up there as well. So be interesting to see how this is going to play out with a rookie sandwich between 2 veterans. Then you've got Ty Dillon, who's currently sitting in 4th, Grant Enfinger in 5th. Ty Dillon, who's been Mr. Everything in 2011.
And Chad McCumbee, who's pretty much our hard charger of this event. Green flag comes back out, 116 laps in the books, 84 to go. Matt Crafton gets a really good jump on Kenzie Rustin, Frank Kimmel in 3rd place, Ty Dillon, Grant Enfinger, Chad McCumbee, Matt Merrill, John Stansel, and don't look now, but there's Chris Buescher, just inside the top 10.
And Frank Kimmel taking a look on the bottom side of Kenzie Rustin, able to get that spot as Kenzie moves up on the racetrack. Frank Kimmel goes to 2nd spot.
Frank Kimmel muscling here underneath. Oh, Kenzie Rustin bobbles the car just a little bit. Ty Dillon going to make her pay for that. Grant Enfinger smelling blood as well coming down. Turn number 4. I think Kenzie Rustin's going to get hung out to dry on this lap, Steve.
Yeah, Kenzie Rustin got her 25 way up top. And we see the 23 there of Levi Euster, who looks like may have looped that car on the back stretch.
Caution flag comes out for Levi Euster, who's had all kinds of trouble today just keeping the car going straight.
One thing you saw there at that restart, Matt Crafton knows how to get the car moving in a heck of a hurry.
That was a really good jump by Matt Crafton off that restart. He played the game, and that's that. You got to play that game just right. He did a great restart on him. Frank Kimmel looks like he's got a second life in that car.
Well, he got service on that race car, and he is ready to go back to racing as well. So we kind of thought that the 88 and the 44 may be a couple of cars that were going to vie for the finish here as we head towards.
As we take a second look at this restart and the jump that Matt Crafton got, just coming up on the pace car. As soon as it pulls off, you just see Crafton playing the game and then just jams on it. Next thing you know, he's got about 4 car lengths on Kenzie Rustin, and she's probably wondering what happened.
Yeah, she did not get a good start at all. You can see right there that she's holding the 44 up. Once she got up high on the racetrack, it was really easy for Frank Kimmel to get underneath her.
Yeah, by the time she got up to speed, Frank Kimmel was already 2 moves ahead of her, knew that he could go down low, and got that pass on her and got the spot. And then Kenzie Rustin pretty much got freight trained back coming off of turn number 4, loses a couple more spots to Ty Dillon, Grant Enfinger. Next thing you know, she's sitting outside the top 5.
We have 2 cars out of the Frank Kimmel stable there. The number 88, driven by Matt Crafton, is a car that originally was a backup car for Frank Kimmel, and they sent that car over to the Thor Sport Racing shops in Sandusky, Ohio. Went through the race car, made sure all the nuts and bolts were as tight as they needed to be, put Matt Crafton's seat in it, and it looks like the backup for Frank Kimmel is a pretty stout race car.
Yeah. Great story out of Thor Sport, too. Jimmy Sauter. I mean, that's quite a little speed plant they got going in Sandusky, isn't it?
Isn't that amazing that when the entire stock car world, if you will,
is focused on Sandusky, Ohio.
Is focused on Sandusky, Ohio right now, at least in the Camping World Truck Series. But you've got so many teams that are in North Carolina, and to have a team that's in Sandusky, Ohio do as well as they have in the Truck Series is great. And look at what happened with Reagan Smith a week ago in the Sprint Cup Series out of Denver, Colorado. What? Somebody from Denver, Colorado winning a Sprint Cup race? And it's amazing.
122 in the books. Matt Crafton, your leader. Frank Kimmel, second place. Ty Dillon, Grant Enfinger, Kenzie Rustin, Chad Cumbie, Matt Merrill, and Chris Buescher trying to make a little bit of noise. He loves this track. He won here twice last year, won the pole. And we'll see if Chris Buescher, if any work that they did on his car in that pit stop, see if they can get Chris Buescher going in the right direction again.
Not quite as good of a start that time for Crafton. Of course, he has the veteran Kimmel behind him this time.
Well, when you're not going to catch Frank Kimmel sleeping, and Frank Kimmel going down low, turn number 1, and Matt Crafton just shuts the door. Great move by Crafton to seal him off. We'll see if Kimmel can muscle him out of the way and go down low again. Another good charge by Kimmel. Does he have enough to put his nose underneath his fender? And Matt Crafton has got to holding him off again.
I think Kimmel's got the stronger race car right at the moment. Matt Crafton may be the craftier veteran right at the outset.
Hey-o. That was a pun, right?
That was a pun.
Okay, just checking. And on lap number 125, they are 3 wide onto the front stretch. Ty Dillon pulls up just a little bit. Frank Kimmel down low. He's got a good following on him. Matt Crafton getting hung out to dry on the high side. Grant Enfinger comes down low. Crafton loses 3 spots in the span of a lap. Matt Merrill now knocking on his back door. And it looks like Matt Crafton might be in some trouble for the next 70 laps.
Well, we saw that a couple of times where your leader starts to get past, and it's not just one car, but it's 2 or 3 that get by him. Matt Crafton, again, maybe a race car that's a little better during long runs than what he is on short runs. So Matt Crafton can sit back there, and he's got some older tires as well, about a 30-lap older tires on that car, so it may take a little bit of time for that car to come in to Matt Crafton.
And it might be too long to wait because, as we said before, those pit strategies come into play with Crafton pitting early. Those other cars coming in, if his car goes away at the wrong time, that could spell disaster for the guy who was just leading 10 laps ago.
Well, it doesn't look good right now for Matt Crafton as he's falling like a stone back there right at the moment.
And look who's up front, none other than the 9-time winner of both the ARCA Series and 9-time winner here at Toledo Speedway, but Frank Kimmel. Ty Dillon, any early race problems he had seem to be melted away as he's in second place. Grant Enfinger still with a strong run in the 36 car. Matt Merrill looks like they got his car going again. He's in 4th spot. Chris Buescher running top 5 speed. I would say Buescher might now be a factor in the closing laps of this race.
Well, Buescher may be able to bring that battered and beaten race car towards the front, but the guy I'm looking out for right now is the 41 of Ty Dillon, who's all over the back end of that 44 car of Frank Kimmel.
Yeah, and it looks like overall he's got a stronger car. Kimmel is stronger in the turns, but it looks like Ty Dillon can really track him down and make him pay for it when he comes off turn number 4. See if he gets a good run on him again. I think he's going to this time. On lap number 133, Ty Dillon all over the rear deck lid of Frank Kimmel coming up onto the back stretch. And Ty Dillon's got to hold up just for the moment. He's making these runs coming out of the turns.
Yeah, Ty Dillon is real strong in 3 and 4 coming down the front stretch. Not quite as good in 1 and 2, but you see that he gets down low there coming out of 3 and coming out of 2 going towards the back stretch. Now is where he's going to pick up the pace there, and he gets right underneath the back end of Kimmel.
Your race leader, Kimmel, coming into lap traffic. We'll see how that's going to play into this, if he can use those cars to pick off and put some distance between himself and Ty Dillon, because Ty Dillon is on a tear right now. Kimmel getting around lap traffic. Ty Dillon going right around with him onto the high side. Lap number 135. Matt Crafton pulls into the pits.
And Crafton is getting right side tires right now, so the handle has gone away big time on the 88 car for Matt Crafton. 1.5 2 rounds of wedge also in the right sides. They go to the left side and put tires on the 88 car for Matt Crafton as well. So 4 tires and fuel for the 88 of Matt Crafton.
Back onto the on-track battle as you've got Frank Kimmel desperately trying to hold off Ty Dillon. And trouble coming out of turn number 3. The 82 car of Sean Core gets spun around. Caution flag's going to come out. Core tried to save it getting around, but they are going to throw the yellow flag.
And Matt Crafton has to be just livid with his timing, because if he could have held off for another 2 laps, he would have been able to make that pit stop under caution instead of under green flag conditions.
Well, we've got caution on the track. We'll step aside, take a quick break. You are watching Menards 200, presented by Federated Car Care on BCSN. Remember to tune into BCSN Sunday night at the races every week at 9 p.m. Relive the thrills, the spills, and the close finishes from some of the area's most exciting tracks every Sunday night at 9 o'clock. Visit www.bcsn.tv to see which track we'll be at this week. And we've got a humdinger going right now, Steve, as Frank Kimmel and Ty Dillon locked into a pretty titanic struggle out there on the track.
Well, we've talked about all the good of Frank Kimmel. Let's talk about the bad a little bit. Frank Kimmel has not won a race in over 70 races on the ARCA Racing Series, and he is looking to make Toledo his place to get rid of that streak. Milpa Duno coming around, she will get the Aaron's Lucky Dog Award. And but Frank Kimmel has been a long time. It's been, I believe it was Salem 2.5 years ago or so since he's won, and that for Frank Kimmel is a long, long time. He said Toledo is a place where he wants to make sure.
Yeah, that's got to be a spot where he can get everything going right again, because he has won so many times here. He's got so much seat time here.
I'll tell you, he's got one big problem, though, and that's the 41 car of Ty Dillon.
Yeah, Ty Dillon not going away. And as you see, I think pretty much everybody that we thought is starting to rise back to the top again. Chris Buscher's coming back in. His car is running top 5 right now. Merrill is up there. We knew he would be a factor as well.
As we said, Matt Merrill, that car owned by Kevin Sawinski, that Champions Brands Dodge out of Wintron Racing, has had wins here at Toledo in the very recent past as well. So that's a car you got to look out for as well. They know how to set up the race car for this Toledo Speedway super high banked half mile.
So lap number 141 out of 200 here for the Menards 200. Frank Kimmel, your leader. Ty Dillon in second place. Maryland third. We'll see what kind of jump Kimmel gets on the green. Back to green flag racing. And Frank Kimmel, good jump, but Ty Dillon very strong at the moment. Matt Merrill, Chad McCumbee. And we will see if Chris Buscher now can make some noise as well.
Once again, Ty Dillon real strong in 3 and 4. See if he's going to be able to get his car underneath the 44 of Frank Kimmel. Not able to do it on the west side of the racetrack.
No, coming into turn 1 and 2, you can definitely see he doesn't have it right there, but as he makes that run off the backstretch, Ty Dillon very strong on Kimmel. Kimmel, though, has got a good handling car at this point, and he can just kind of whip it down. He seals off Ty Dillon just as Dillon is putting that move on him.
Running a very good line way down to the bottom of the racetrack in 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Frank Kimmel has a good handling race car. You can see it goes right down to the white line down there and brings it right through the middle of the racetrack on the front stretch here. Frank Kimmel very strong right now. The question is, can he hold him off for almost 50 laps?
Yeah, you're talking more than 50 laps at this point, and if Frank Kimmel, if both their cars are equal at this point, do you give it to Ty Dillon, who's in that second spot, if you're waiting to make his move, or do you give it to Frank Kimmel, the veteran driver, who can make his car about as wide as possible?
Yeah, the biggest lead I've seen in a while there was Ty Dillon fell back about 4 car lengths going down the back stretch. So Frank Kimmel looks like he's making up a little bit of distance between the two of them, a little bit every lap.
Tim George coming back to have a good run here in his 31 machine. Surprisingly enough, he's got some distance between himself, Chris Buscher, and I believe it's Matt Crafton. Is he still a lap down on that?
I'm showing, let me see here right now. We got to wait for it to refresh here real quick, and we'll see whether or not Matt Crafton is being shown right now as 3 laps down.
Okay, so he's laps down. So.
Debris on the front stretch came off of, I believe it was.
We got trouble there, so caution flag's got to come out. And, it looks like Ty Dillon hit it, whatever it was.
Looked like some sheet metal off the back of, I believe it was the 28 car. Nope, off the 52 car there, I believe. So lost some sheet metal.
Frank Kimmel avoided it. Ty Dillon hit it, so as long as he didn't cut a tire, he should be okay, because he pretty much ran right over that sheet metal. On lap number 149, 50 laps to go. And it's shaping up to be a pretty good battle between Frank Kimmel, Ty Dillon, Matt Merrill's back up, Chad McCumbee, Chris Buescher almost redeeming himself. If he can get a top 5 run out of this, I think he'll be happy trying to salvage his day.
Well, the other one we haven't talked about, Tim George Jr., we haven't talked about him since he was in the pits about 3 or 4 times there after that incident earlier on in the race. He finds himself currently sitting in the 5th spot as well. That's a very strong car. Doesn't look very good, but that thing runs like crazy out of the Richard Childress Racing stable as well, along with the 41 of Ty Dillon.
I was just going to say, if you've got an RCR car, does it matter how it looks? What matters is that engine underneath and how it goes. But yeah, Tim George, after that run-in with Hessert from that wreck that Kenzie Ruston caused, really a really strong showing now, running top 5.
Well, that just shows that this is definitely not an aero-sensitive track, so that's...
Yeah, as a 3/8 mile and it's a high banked and it's quick, yeah, it's definitely not. It's not going to hinder you as much as, say, a super speedway, a mile track where you get on those long runs and you're constantly, like you said, the aero concerns are more.
Well, this is going to be a very interesting final 40 laps for sure, whether Frank Kimmel is going to be able to hold off the 41 or not. There you see Matt Crafton down on the inside of Frank Kimmel, but as we said, showing currently at 2 laps down is where Matt Crafton is.
So Frank Kimmel, Ty Dillon, 1-2. Matt Merrill, 3rd place. McCumbee in 4th. Tim George. Then you've got, looks like Chris Buescher, Chad Heckenbraw, Dakota Armstrong running in the 8th spot. Enfinger, who was at one time your race leader, and then John Stansel in the 55. He's kind of had an up-and-down day, Stansel, hasn't he?
Yeah, we haven't really called his number a whole heck of a lot. He hasn't done anything amazing, but he's just been kind of hanging around there in the top 10 and the top 5 a few times.
Back to green flag racing, 48 laps to go. Frank Kimmel gets a really good jump on Dillon. That's your lap car of Matt Crafton racing with Ty Dillon at the moment. Matt Merrill running in 3rd spot, McCumbee in 4th, and George rounding out your top 5.
Frank, as you said, CJ, Frank Kimmel got off to a good start again, and it's going to take a little while for Ty Dillon to catch back up to him. As we said, Ty Dillon was a lot stronger in turns 3 and 4 than he was in 1 and 2, but right now about a 4 car length lead for the 9-time champion.
Yeah, it looks like Frank Kimmel's car is really coming in at this point. Ty Dillon, with 45 laps to go, we'll see if his car can hold up or if he's driven the wheels off just trying to get where he's at now. Kimmel, 9-time winner here at Toledo, looking to make it number 10 and end about a 70 race drought, which is an eternity for a guy like Frank Kimmel.
It's amazing that it has lasted that long. Some great racing back in the pack. We saw a few seconds ago 3-wide racing. Chad Hackenbraw was part of that 3-wide racing. That's something that you always see here at Toledo Speedway. It's not just the guys in the lead.
And Levi Youster is down into the pits. No caution flag comes out. We are still green. 44 laps to go. Your race leader, Frank Kimmel, sailing at this point. Ty Dillon in 2nd spot. Matt Merrill, Chad McCumbee, and Tim George Jr. Chris Buescher just on the outside in the 6th spot. In front of Dakota Armstrong, Grant Enfinger, Heckenbraw, and John Stansel.
Right now, Frank Kimmel seems to be able to increase that lead ever so slightly, lap after lap, over Ty Dillon. And right now we're at a difference of about 14 one-thousandths of a second between the two.
Coming up on lap traffic, is that going to be a problem for Frank Kimmel? Number 7 goes down low to get out of the way. Good move by the lap traffic. Not racing with him. Ty Dillon gets around him as well. And yeah, it looks like, Kimmel's car is handling so well at this point. He is really just being able to stick it almost anywhere he wants to go, Steve.
He is on a rail as he looks at the back marker there. That is the 34 car of Darrell Basham coming up, and then the leaders will get by Basham without incident as Darrell moves down to the bottom of the racetrack. interesting about Darrell Basham, he had a fire right at the end of last season, basically took out his entire race shop. Darrell Basham had to start from scratch and got help from a lot of racers on the ARCA racing circuit.
And look at how strong Crafton's car has come back at two laps down right now.
Matt Crafton is a victim of circumstance right at the moment, but a very fast race car, able to hang with those top two guys of Ty Dillon and his teammate Frank Kimmel.
So Frank Kimmel with 38 laps to go, still leading Ty Dillon. Milka Duno, your lap car getting in the way of Frank Kimmel just a little bit, dives down to the low side. Frank Kimmel gets around the lap traffic. Ty Dillon comes right along with him. Matt Merrill kind of hanging back there in third. McCumbee and now Chris Buescher rolling into the top five. Grant Enfinger behind him. Tim George slipping back 2 spots.
Milka Duno was a big factor right there as Ty Dillon was able to close up that lead a little bit that Frank Kimmel has with the help of Milka Duno.
Yeah, but you get some clean air for Frank Kimmel, and he's back to that 1.5 car length lead that he's had for the last 40 or so laps. And Kimmel with 35 to go, holding off Ty Dillon. It's going to set up to be a good finish, though. Ty Dillon not going anywhere.
Frank Kimmel so smooth out there right now, running a great line. Both ends of the racetrack right down among the white line down there. And then just centers the straightaways. Very, very fast race car. Very smooth right now for the 9-time champ. We got a spin in 3.
Caution flag comes out. That's Josh Williams down on the grass coming out of turn number 4 with 34 laps to go.
Well, that'll bunch the field back up again.
No concern to Frank Kimmel, though. The man's the master of the restart. We've seen it time and time again the last 3 or 4 caution flags. Kimmel has had no problem whatsoever getting on a jump. And as we come up on caution flag with 33 laps to go, we are going to step aside, take a break from the action. You're watching the Menards 200 presented by Federated Car Care. Watching it on BCSN HD.
BCSN, available exclusively on Buckeye Cable System, is presented by The Andersons, more for your home. Yark Automotive, just what you're looking for. And by Banner Mattress and Furniture.
.32 laps to go on the 200-lap race. The Menards 200 presented by Federated Car Care at Toledo Speedway. Back to green flag racing. And once again, we see the good jump by Frank Kimmel. You've got that lap car now of Matt Crafton between himself and Ty Dillon, Steve. How much problems is that going to cause for Ty Dillon?
It won't cause a problem for him once he gets straightened out, but Ty Dillon got off to a terrible restart. He had Matt Merrill all over the rear end of his race car when looked like he spun the tires, wasn't able to get going, and that helped get Frank Kimmel out to a decent lead. Now they have to worry about Matt Crafton. Crafton looking to get his lap back, try and get to a position where he can get the lucky dog and get back on the lead lap.
You get a guy like Frank Kimmel who's really good at restarts to begin with, not to state the obvious. Then you throw in a little bit of trouble for Ty Dillon. That might have been the bump that Frank Kimmel needs with under 30 laps to go, 29 laps to go. That you can't give Frank Kimmel any kind of space like that, any kind of mistake like that. He's going to capitalize on it.
Well, Ty Dillon so much wanted to get a good restart, and he just got
totally
his foot into it a little bit.
You could tell that he mashed on it at the wrong time and totally fluffed that start. 28 laps to go. Ty Dillon in second place.
Chad McCumbee again looking to get underneath the Grant Enfinger as well. So McCumbee looking to make a run towards the front and be able to give something to the 41 and the 44.
Yeah, McCumbee was a hard charger at one point. Then everybody dove into the pits. The entire lineup got shuffled again, and Enfinger, who was winning at the time, and McCumbee, who was charging up, those guys kind of got shuffled out of the order. Frank Kimmel ended up with the lead and has had the lead since basically everybody pitted back then.
Well, I don't want to say that teammates are causing an effect here, but Ty Dillon not able to get around Matt Crafton, who is Frank Kimmel's teammate here this weekend. So as long as he's able to run between the two of them, Ty Dillon has to pass 2 cars. Yeah,
you get a deal like that between the teammates, and you might have some trouble for Ty Dillon. Matt Crafton, of course, a lap down, 24 laps to go. Frank Kimmel, your race leader, Ty Dillon, wants to get around Matt Crafton to challenge Frank Kimmel. Matt Merrill, Grant Enfinger locked in a very good battle for third. Enfinger goes down low during turn number 3. Enfinger comes away with the spot on Matt Merrill.
We saw that earlier. Ooh, got a little loose there a little bit with the 36 of Enfinger. Enfinger was really good on long runs earlier in the race. See if he's going to be able to do the same here as he got by Matt Merrill.
Chad McCumbee now going to try to put the pass on Matt Merrill as well. McCumbee, a very strong car as well. 23 laps to go. And some shuffling of positions up there in the top 5, but nothing for Frank Kimmel just yet, as he is running an incredible line right now, getting around the track about as well as anybody can here at the Speedway. Frank Kimmel out and in front, Matt Kraft, and that lap car between Ty Dillon and Kimmel, and caution flag's going to come out. You got trouble between turn number 1 and 2.
Milka Duno looks like she did yesterday in practice. Back that car into the outside wall. This time she did it in 2 instead of 3.
So Milka Duno started on the pole by dint of racers' points from 2010 because qualifying got washed out. Has had her fair share of troubles here today during the race.
To her credit, she's done a good job for the most part of staying out of everybody's way, which is what she was looking to do here at Toledo. Not a lot of laps for her in that seat. But kind of came up, and as we talked about earlier, this racetrack will come up and bite you at times.
Trying to get seat time during a race at Toledo, that's a tall order. I mean, it's hard enough during qualifying, just trying to get this track down, but trying to do it during a race, hats off to Kenzie Rustin, hats off to Milka Duno for doing as well as they have had today.
Yep, absolutely. Now it's going to be interesting to see how this restart is going to play back out. The 14 of Josh Williams gets the lucky dog. The Aaron's lucky dog as he comes around. You see there the car, the Milka Duno Dodge.
Yep, Duno into the pits, smacked up against the wall between turns 1 and 2. And with 20 laps to go, this is going to be the 20-lap dash here. We'll see what kind of restart. Frank Kimmel has been fantastic on the restarts all day, of course. Ty Dillon muffed that last one, so he got himself to a bit of trouble, ended up racing Matt Kraft in the lap car for the last 10 laps or so, which he didn't want to do.
Yep, and once again, Matt Crafton is going to start on the inside of his teammate as the car a lap down. This is the caution that Matt Crafton needed if he would have been able to get by Frank Kimmel. Would have put him one lap down. He could have gotten the Aaron's lucky dog, which may have put him back on the lead lap.
And this is the caution that Ty Dillon needed, because that last run was not really good for Ty Dillon.
And we're going to come up here under 20 laps to go. We'll see how the restart plays out with Matt Crafton down on the inside as well. You have to believe that Ty Dillon is going to just follow the 44 of Frank Kimmel around. And Frank Kimmel is very, very good on restarts. You've seen it all race long.
We'll find out. Green flag back out. Frank Kimmel, another good jump. Ty Dillon, much better this time. Grant Enfinger comes around as well. A good start for those top 3 cars. And Ty Dillon now going to try to put the move on Frank Kimmel, diving into turn number 3. He's got to back out of it momentarily, coming around. 18 laps to go. Ty Dillon side by side with Kimmel coming around again. Ty Dillon keeps throwing it at Frank Kimmel, coming out of the backstretch out of turn number 2. Dillon backs out this time. Grant Enfinger now coming up on Dillon. Dillon slipped back just a little bit. And we're back to 1-2-3 racing. That was an exciting 3 laps, Steve, because you didn't really know what was going to happen.
Well, the last lap, Ty Dillon threw way down low and wasn't able to keep the speed up as he got down probably a little too low. But you see he's been really strong in 3 and 4. See whether or not he's going to be able to get underneath the 9-time champion. But it's Grant Enfinger all over the back end as well of Ty Dillon. And don't forget about Matt Merrill sitting in 4th place in that 32 car.
Yeah, Matt Merrill just waiting for anything to happen to those top 3 cars. Ty Dillon really getting a good run off of 3 and 4. It's where he's been trying to put his nose underneath Frank Kimmel's fender each time. Kimmel seems to kind of got his bearings back, though, this time with 14 laps to go. Frank Kimmel, Ty Dillon. Dillon incredibly strong now, much better off of turn number 2 than he's been the entire race. Dillon may finally have it. He's coming, tracking Frank Kimmel down to the low side. Ty Dillon, laps are starting to run out. We're coming up on 10 laps to go. Ty Dillon, Frank Kimmel. When they get into lap traffic, we'll see if Ty Dillon can use that to his advantage. So the last time Frank Kimmel used the lap traffic to kind of clip off Ty Dillon.
Frank Kimmel and Ty Dillon, this looks like a replay from Talladega where Frank Kimmel thought he had that race won.
And Ty Dillon and Frank Kimmel get into it. Kimmel gets turned around on turn number 2. Kimmel got spun out.
By Ty Dillon.
Flag comes out. Ty Dillon touched Frank Kimmel, got him around. I don't think that's going to go down so well.
That isn't going to be real happy for Frank Kimmel, that's for sure.
On lap number 189, Frank Kimmel, who has run a flawless second half of the race.
Kimmel right down there on the white line, and then you see a little bit of a bobble as Ty Dillon gets into the back of him. I think that Frank Kimmel just got down a little too low.
I think he checked up just a little bit too much. You're going to see him come down a little bit too low on the white line.
And then Dillon right here, you're able to see, gets right underneath the back bumper. And then Dillon goes high around the spinning 9-time champion. Frank Kimmel cannot be a happy camper at the moment.
Yeah, coming off of turn number 1 into turn number 2, Kimmel goes down a little bit too low. Dillon follows him. Kimmel bobbles, checks up, and then Dillon gets underneath the back bumper. Dillon comes away with the spot. Kimmel gets spun out. And after leading the second half of this race, Frank Kimmel.
Frank Kimmel is trying to see here real quick where Frank Kimmel is showing 13th currently. He is the guy who has been leading this race so much of the afternoon, currently sitting 13th. And there is your new leader. That is Ty Dillon, the guy who sat on the pole for the first 3 races of the year, and the only reason he may not have sat on the pole here in Toledo was because it was rained out. He was also your winner of the second race of the year at Talladega as well.
Yeah, Ty Dillon, not to take it, he's had a very good year already, but this was Kimmel's race to lose, and it looks like Kimmel just lost the race. With 10 laps to go, it's going to be extremely hard for him to come back because Ty Dillon has a very strong car. Enfinger as well. Don't count out Grant Enfinger at this point, so we'll see what kind of restart Ty Dillon can get. But Frank Kimmel, 9-time winner here at Toledo, 9-time ARCA champ. This may have sealed the fate on trying to get that monkey off his back, that 70-some winless drought.
I think the monkey may have become the 600-pound gorilla in the room.
We'll take another look at it, see how on the last, on lap 189, you just see Kimmel coming down, gets a little bit too low.
And he bobbled a little bit, going right into turn 1. And wasn't able to hang on to it going into turn 2. And I think when he did that, that's when Ty Dillon got underneath him.
Yeah, Dillon was following him almost that same exact line, and there was nowhere for him to go. Just got underneath Frank Kimmel's rear deck lid and took him out. So with 9 laps to go, the entire complexion of this race has changed. Frank Kimmel, your race leader for most of the second half of this race, back to 13th spot. Ty Dillon in first. Pace car is going to pull off, and 9 laps to go. We'll see if Ty Dillon can hold off Grant Enfinger.
Single file restart.
Victory. Green flag back out. Enfinger in second. Good jump for Enfinger. Better jump for Ty Dillon. Matt Merrill, McCumbee, Tim George, Chris Buescher. Everybody just waiting to see if Ty Dillon will screw up at all, but at this point, I don't see it happening. 7 laps to go.
Chad McCumbee got the worst start out of that group. He started third, went high on the racetrack. Matt Merrill got him.
More trouble coming into turn number 1. That's the 82 of
Sean Corr.
And Sean Corr not having a good day. I believe it's the second caution that he's caused.
Yep, well, as we get this cleaned up, what's going to happen, we're going to get down to about 3 laps to go, probably by the time we get this cleaned up, depending on whether or not Sean Corr left any debris on the racetrack or not,
So we'll take a look to see what happened right off the restart. The 82 is Sean Corr. Oh, looks like he got into it. Was that Kimmel?
Yeah, he got
looks like side by side with Frank Kimmel. Came down a little bit onto Kimmel.
Looks like he hit the wall first, CJ, and then came down, hit Kimmel, and then went back up into the wall again. So Frank Kimmel's got to be saying to himself, what in the world is going on here?
His luck has changed so dramatically in the last 10 laps. Frank Kimmel, your race leader, looking to get number 10 here at Toledo. And
Sean Corr, you see, takes his car to pit lane. You're going underneath the hood. A couple of flat tires on the left side of that car. There's Frank Kimmel. There's your 9-time championship winner.
Yeah. So coming off the restart, we'll just see. I think you're right. He comes up, taps the wall. The 82 Accord comes down, hits Kimmel.
Then goes back
and
up
then
into
goes
the wall.
back up, smacks into the wall. So Sean Core having an inauspicious day here at Toledo.
Sean Core's had a rough day.
With 5 laps to go, still under caution. This could be just a couple lap dash here.
You can see the damage. I'm sorry, CJ, didn't mean to talk over there, but you can see the damage there on the right front of the Frank Kimmel Menards Ford as well. So that may cause some tire issues as well as we get into the last 5 laps of this race or more.
Yeah, if they have to. Ty Dillon, your current race leader, benefiting from the spin out with Frank Kimmel, Grant Enfinger in second place, Matt Merrill in third. McCumbee, who did have that bad restart, back in the fourth. Tim George Jr. Green flag comes back out. 5 laps to go, 4 laps to go for Ty Dillon. Really good jump on Enfinger on that restart. Ty Dillon coming out of the backstretch looking very strong with about 3 car lengths over Grant Enfinger. Matt Merrill, Tim George, Chad McCumbee, and Chris Buescher on the outside looking into the top 5.
Right now it looks like it's going to be settled between Ty Dillon, Grant Enfinger, and Matt Merrill as those 3 have separated themselves from the next group. But Ty Dillon is extremely strong as he comes down into 3 and 4, looking to complete lap 198.
Dillon's already got a win this year, looking to make it number 2 in the ARCA Series. 2 laps to go. Ty Dillon, Grant Enfinger. Looks like Enfinger's making up some ground on Ty Dillon. Enfinger looking to go low, coming into turn number 3. Can he get it? No, he's got to check up. Ty Dillon. White flag comes out one more time around for Ty Dillon. Grant Enfinger, everything he can, he is going to throw at Ty Dillon on this last lap. Matt Merrill in third, waiting to see if anything's going to happen to Ty Dillon and Enfinger. Coming out of turn number 3 and 4. Ty Dillon, your race leader of the ARCA Menards 200, collects the checkered flag for Ty Dillon. Grant Enfinger, second place. Merrill in third. Tim George, Chris Buescher, rounding out your top 5.
Well, it looked like Grant Enfinger was able to get right up underneath of your winner, Ty Dillon, but not able to get him loose or to get by him. So Grant Enfinger made the move that he needed to with 2 laps to go, but just was not able to get past your winner, Ty Dillon, in the number 41 Hemmelgarn Racing Engines
And
Chevrolet.
you see Frank Kimmel and Ty Dillon side by side. Talking about dinner plans. What do you think?
I think they are probably talking about paybacks that will be doled out sometime later in the season.
Oh, incredible finish for the ARCA Menards 200. We are going to step aside, wrap this all up. You're watching BCSN. There's not much more to say. And it looks like Frank Kimmel has taken some exception to the move that Ty Dillon pulled with about 10 laps to go. Some post-race action, and we'll see if any more develops. We'll wrap it up on BCSN. The ARCA Menards 200 presented by Federated Car Care. And welcome back to Toledo Speedway. The Winner's Circle festivities here for the Menards 200, presented by Federated Car Care. Your winner, Ty Dillon. And Steve, as we saw heading out to break, a certain Frank Kimmel was not so happy with the way things went down with Ty Dillon.
Well, I see the crew member there found the checkered flag that had been unceremoniously tossed aside by the 9-time champion. Frank Kimmel he's not used to doing that window net from the outside. But there, as you see, talks to the official, says, I'm not going to punch him.
I'm just going to scare him a little bit.
Yep.
I'm just going to put the fear of Frank Kimmel in him.
So Frank Kimmel, the veteran.
Yeah, and of course, you know what happened was, of course, Ty Dillon bumped him out of the way.
So Ty Dillon is your winner, second win of the season. So 2 out of the 5 victories go to the number 41 driver, Ty Dillon.
All right, and this presentation of BCSN and HD is brought to you by Nationwide Auto Finance, the biggest zero-interest lot in the region for everyone. That is going to do it from here, from Toledo Speedway. For Steve Ronkowitz, for John Valdez-DePena, and the rest of the crew. It was a heck of a race. It was a heck of a finish. Good night, everybody.